What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the High Tempo Sports Podcast, episode 202. Today, we are here for a late night cast with the boys, Seth and Ivan, back to talk about Week 2 fantasy recap and Week 3 fantasy preview. How are we doing today, boys?
Doing great.
Oh, yeah, doing fine.
It's a phenomenal Wednesday night right now. Like I said, this is late night. What time is it? Like 10 something?
10:23.
Yeah, this is quite the late podcast, so it could get weird, you know.
It's gonna get weird.
It's gonna get weird. So be prepared for that. I did a Lions Seahawks recap on the podcast on Monday, so go check that out if you have not yet. But this episode will be available on YouTube. So I think let's just hop right into it.
Yep.
Week 2 fantasy football. How did you guys do? I know in our league, you guys did quite phenomenal. But across the board, did you guys have a good fantasy week?
I went 1-1.
Okay.
So yeah,
That's not
the
bad.
league I care about, I did good. So
That's like most important.
yep, had a good week.
I went 2-1. I had two like crazy boom teams, and then my one team that's like a pretty high buy-in with like my brother and his friends. I got like Josh Jacobs and Jamar Chase, so I'm not having a good time over there.
Yeah, that does suck. I had a pretty good week. I went 4-2. I lost in our league though, so that's. Oh no, I went 3-3 actually. I did not have a pretty good week. Lost in my two most important leagues, so I guess that does suck. The team league was my other loss, so that's not that big of a deal.
I guess I went 2-1 if we're counting team.
Yeah, I just counted just like to make it sound like I'm crazy and I'm in 6 fantasy leagues.
I think you went 3-3 last week too.
I think I did, yeah. So I've been very even to start. I'm 0-2 in the Devy League. I'm 2-0 in my other Dynasty League and my Family League. So I'm just all over the place right now.
Did I beat you in the Devy League?
You did.
I
almost
really
made a comeback though. Like I almost made a nice crazy comeback. I lost by like 5. I had Nico Collins and Zach Moss both on my bench, and had like Jamal Williams starting. So yeah, it was just.
Pretty sure I had 200 put up on me in that league.
Seriously? Joe.
Yeah.
Joe's team is crazy in that league. He's for sure. Actually, he has Chubb though. I think I'm pretty sure he drafted Chubb.
He could.
So he could be done for. Okay, before we talk about guys like Nick Chubb and things that happened in Week 2, we need to quickly go over the recap of our boom or bust picks of Week 2. Let's start it off with that. I'm gonna get mine out of the way. Put up a donut in the boom or bust. 0 for 4. Nick Chubb boom. Obviously, it didn't happen. Tony Pollard bust. He put up 2.5 more points than he was projected. Jahmyr Gibbs boom. He put up half a point less than he was projected. And DeAndre Swift bust. Could be, I know this is the first week that we've done this, could be the worst boom or bust pick of this whole season. Put up 27 when he was projected 12. Doubled his points.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Yeah.
I think you got to give yourself a break on the Chubb one, or we have to give you a break. I think he would have boomed if he played the whole game.
Probably.
He was running the ball efficiently, you know?
And I think he would have too.
Yeah.
Like, especially the game that Jerome Ford ended up having. Like, he probably would have boomed. But we can't, you know, he didn't boom, you know, as much as it sucks to say. Ivan, on the other hand, slightly improved over myself. 1 for 4 for Ivan. The one that he hit was Zach Moss, boom, 9.3 projection. He had 20.7. Garrett Wilson bust was like it was one of them that should have happened.
Yeah.
You know, he had 14 projection. Going into like 2-minute warning of the first half, he had 0 points put up, and then like the 65-yard touchdown pass.
I believe he had 2 targets, 2 catches.
For like 80 yards and a touchdown. Yeah.
Ugh.
Which is just, I mean, like it that should have hit, if we're being honest. And then Mark Andrews bust was close, Mark Andrews boom was close, 12.4 projection. He had 15.5, so just a few points shy there, definitely close. And then Terry McLaurin bust, he scored a touchdown and put up 3.5 points more than his projection. So 1 on the season for Ivan. For Seth, he had a close call with one of these boom or bust. Seth goes 2 for 4 on the boom or bust. The 2 that he hit was Danny Dimes, projected 18.1, had the highest scoring quarterback week at 30.74. And then Travis Etienne bust, so he gets the first bust pick out of this thing we're doing. With 16.2 projection, he had 6.2, so quite the play there. Jordan Addison, man, just so close to the boom. 11.7 projection. He had 16.2. But we got to go by the rules. It's got to be 5 points at least or more. So that does not hit. And then Jackson Smith and Jigba at 11.6 projection. You projected the bust. Was close. He had 8.4. So solid picks though from you. Like mine were really bad. Like you guys actually had some pretty good picks. So yeah.
Yeah, I was happy with mine.
Yeah, but I do I got to take the L on the Mark Andrews though, because I said if he scores a touchdown, he will boom. And he scored a touchdown and didn't boom. So
yeah, I guess that is a good point. Yeah, I think that this week these are a lot harder from what we have gathered so far. At least trying to pick the bus. Projections are crazy this week, man. You have guys like Kyron Williams projected 18 points. You have some guys projected a lot lower than they should be, I feel like. Jamar Chase is still projected like 19, so it makes things difficult. Let's go over the top scores, though, of week 2. So the top 5 where Keenan Allen was the top scorer this week at 31.1, Danny Dimes at 30.74, Puka Nacua with a 30 bomb, 30.1, Mike Evans in the 4th slot at 29.1, and then at 5th we had a tie between Brian Robinson and T. Higgins at 28.9. So other than these top 5 scores, did you guys have any names that popped off for you that you didn't really expect, or maybe they just did and you were like, just wanted to show them some acknowledgement?
Yeah, I've got 2 shout-outs here. I got Kyron Williams. I'm a Rams homer. He's putting up a great season so far. And Raheem Mostert, 25.7. So I was happy with both of those.
yeah, I think Hawkinson was a big one for the tight end. He's the tight end 1 now, so I think it's a big deal.
Mm-hmm. He had 2 touchdowns, I think in that Vikings game. And I think he could definitely keep it going. I mean, like, he probably won't be tight end 1. Like, I assume Kelsey will take that back at some point, but he could be tight end 2 this year for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that those are both good. Those are some guys that did good in week 1 for sure. The numbers were a bit crazier this week. I don't think there was any 30 bombs in week 1. At least I had it written right here. So
Tyreek had 40.
Oh yeah, Dell, you had 44 and a half. Yeah, you're right.
Not 30 though.
Dallas
44.
defense.
Dallas defense and Ayuk. Those were the 330 bombs, and there's only 330 bombs this week too. This actually was a worse week. So, but let's talk about some busts of week 2. Not as bad as week 1. You know, we had a couple of donuts out of several guys. The only donut this week out of a guy that you like would have maybe started was Zay Jones, putting up 0. But yeah, like you probably weren't starting him, and also he like kind of got hurt too. So like, does that even count? But what are some major busts that could have ruined your lineup in week 2?
I don't know. This is tough because like, you know, I don't obviously like you said they're not 0.0s, but these are just like 3 dudes that you expect more from starting every week. Calvin Ridley, 5.2 points after an explosive week 1. A.J. Brown, 6.9 points. He hasn't had the production like he had last year. And Josh Jacobs still hasn't broken 10. He had 9.9 this week.
It is unfortunate with Josh Jacobs so far. Yeah, and A.J. Brown, like, he had like 14 in week 1. So, like, he really hasn't, like, popped off by any means. He got into that little fight or whatever with Jalen Hurts on the sideline, even though they were, like, winning by, like, 4 touchdowns. So that was kind of weird. Yeah, AJ and Ridley were both on my list of like guys that could have ruined your week, and they ruined weeks in our league. I mean, you know, those are starts players in our league, and both of those teams lost. So, who are some other busts that you caught your eye, Ivan?
I think the biggest bust to me, the biggest bust of the week, was Breece Hall.
Yeah,
he didn't put up a point.
0.9, right? Yeah.
So that I think a lot of people started Breece,
especially
after
a tough
matchup, but like. I think that's the biggest bust of the week.
And I think especially after, you know, Zach Wilson comes in, you kind of expect Breece Hall to like get more work at least.
He looked great week 1.
Exactly. And he had and he was upset about his touches. He tweeted out like 4 football emojis, and then like after underneath it like said something about how he wants to get used more. So I thought that's a humongous water.
That one's weird too, because it's not like Dalvin Cook did anything spectacular either. He had -2 points.
And Dalvin Cook like doesn't look good so far, dude.
Yeah, I think I don't think there's a worry about Breece. I think the Cowboys defense throws your team off.
Definitely.
I think the Jets got thrown off.
That's kind of a team where you're playing them, unless there is a top fantasy option, you might just have to bench the whole whole squad against the Cowboys. The other 3 guys that I wrote on here, One of them was a guy that we talked about on last episode. Like, if he is the starter this week, he starts, and it was Joshua Kelly. He put up 3.9 points. For Austin Eckler owners, I got lucky because I was playing against Austin Eckler, who got hurt, and then Josh Kelly got put in, and you kind of just assume that Kelly was like guaranteed to get you like 14 at minimum, and he gets 3.9. They didn't really run the ball like at all, and they were passing the ball the whole game, and Kelly didn't have that big of a game. What about Kelly going forward, though, if Eckler continues to miss time? Are you comfortable starting him this week?
I think Eckler just lost his projection on ESPN.
Really?
So it's looking like it could be Kelly again. I think he's a must start against the Vikings this week.
Yeah.
I think you just gotta start him because I just don't see many teams out there that have a better option like having Eckler. If you're an Eckler owner and you have Kelly, like I think you just have to start him.
I think so.
I think he's projected 14.2 right now. I think that's pretty fair. I wouldn't expect him to go super far over. That's like a pretty solid spot for him to be around.
I was like gonna put him as like a boom, but it was before Eckler's projection was lost, and he was at I think it was at 8 flat, and it just felt kind of wrong to like if he's ruled as starter, like his projection is gonna change, so I didn't count him. Yeah, I think it definitely, this is very situational as well, like you said against Minnesota. Like that game is probably going to be very, very high scoring. Yeah. And we're going to see some major numbers put up. And we saw what DeAndre Swift and the Eagles did in the run game to the Vikings last week. So Kelly, definitely you have to start him again this week. But I am a guy that had Kelly in another league and didn't have Eckler. And I have like some better options, so I don't think I didn't start him anyways, which like I kind of like I don't know why I didn't, got lucky. So I don't think I'm gonna start him again this week.
I still think it's a little bit of like a pray for a touchdown kind of start. Yeah. Like I think he has a lot better chances of scoring 2 touchdowns than he does having 100 rushing yards.
Probably. Yeah.
And I don't really see him going over 4 or 5 targets.
He probably won't get even over 15 carries either, so it's gonna be tough for him to get 100 on the ground. And then 2 other guys that I had on here are a part of the same team. They didn't put up a touchdown in week 2. It was a bust that you picked, Travis Etienne. That's a guy that, unfortunately for Easton, he's got 2 of these guys on this list, on my bust list, in A.J. Brown and Travis Etienne. But yeah, Etienne only putting up 6. Like, it's not the worst week in the world. I guess I probably should have included Madison, because he only put up 4.9.
He's been through enough this week.
That's a great point. And then Trevor Lawrence putting up 9 as the quarterback there. I had Trevor Lawrence. Terrible. Just sucks when your QB can't get a single touchdown. It really, really throws off your week.
And they are in the red zone like the whole game. Dude, how many close touchdowns that were in that game? Like Ridley probably had 5 targets.
Dude, Zay Jones I think had 2.
I think Ridley had 2 or he missed it by a ton.
Yeah, that one where he ran into the goalpost, and then I think he had another insane catch. Just didn't get his feet down.
Just that close.
Zay Jones had, I know, at least one in the back of the end zone where his second foot didn't get down. And then Trevor Lawrence had that fumble play where he threw it, but he threw it backwards and then it went out of bounds and it was a fumble. It was just quite unfortunate. But yeah, the busts weren't as bad this week, I didn't think. It seemed like there was a lot more consistency around fantasy football this week. Yeah. One thing I think we should talk about, just because it's kind of breaking news and we might as well get it out of the way, is the Cam Akers trade. Just a few hours ago, like I said, we're recording this on Wednesday night. Cam Akers was traded to the Minnesota Vikings for some draft pick. It was probably something really low, like a 5th or 6th round pick, I would assume.
I think the Rams sent Cam Akers in their 7th round pick for the Vikings 6th round.
Okay, yeah.
So they just moved up around.
Yeah, and they just don't, obviously Cam Akers they said they might have released him anyways, so they were never going to get some crazy package for him. But this is quite unfortunate for Alexander Mattison owners, for a guy that has already been quite disappointing so far through 2 weeks. The Minnesota Vikings only ran the ball 24 times this season in 2 games, which is crazy. Their pass offense has looked really good. But Madison was a guy coming into this year that we kind of expected he was going to come in and just dominate like he has in the past when Dalvin Cook has been out. Hasn't so far. They clearly aren't 100% confident in him, and he just kind of lost a backfield where he was the only guy. What do we think about Madison and or Akers going forward? How much does this affect Alexander Mattison? Because there's a lot of teams that are wide receiver heavy that kind of relying on Madison to be that RB2 right now.
Yeah, I think it's a tough situation. It's so hard because Cam Akers, what is going on? There's nobody really knows why.
Yeah.
because it has to be off the field stuff, but they kind of said that it wasn't. After last year, like, you kind of have to think it is.
Right.
So, like, is that going to, like, come over? I doubt it will just because it's a new situation. I don't know. I think Madison he'll have a good week this week. Who are they playing? They're playing the Chargers.
Yeah.
He'll have a good week. I just think he's a good sell kind of guy. Like, he's going to be hard to sell.
It's easy to be hard to sell,
like, maybe just try to get what you can right now. Just because I think it will probably, even if it's like 60-40, that kind of kills Madison's everything that you want Madison.
Because they already don't run the ball.
Yeah, he needs to be in there 80% of the time.
Yeah, which he has been and still hasn't been good. So that's what sucks about it.
And I don't know. He might lose the goal line.
He could. I mean, Akers is a pretty good goal line back, so I could see it.
I think over the last, obviously, year and a half of football, Akers has been like just the weirdest situation I think we've seen in a while with a running back. Because last year there was, I think, a good like 5-week span where it was firm set. He's not playing another snap for the Rams. And he played the last 4 weeks, and he did so well that they were like, this is our guy moving forward. And everyone was like pretty happy with him being the starter for the Rams this year. And it happened again. So like, I don't know if he was just unhappy there or if he's just having a like tough time right now. So I don't know what to expect with him and Madison. I definitely think he hurts Madison in a way that fantasy owners aren't going to like. We just don't know how much yet.
Yeah, I have Madison obviously in our league. I have him as my RB1 in one of my other leagues that I went extremely wide receiver heavy in, and I am so terrified. I got Jerome Ford, I got Zach Moss, both via waivers the last couple weeks, so that's nice and everything. But like, it stinks for Madison because, like I said, I was so excited. I drafted him in so many leagues, dude, because I was just like, how is he going this late? How is he going in the 7th or 8th round? Like, he's going to be a starting running back every week, and he hasn't been. I think that, like you said, if you feel fine starting him this week, I know he had a bad game last game, but that game that was just he had a terrible game script from how that started off. I think he's going to have a good week this week. I think he has a good chance of scoring a touchdown this week. But after this week, once Cam Akers because Cam Akers probably, I mean, he might suit up. I guess it's still kind of early in the week, you know.
Yeah.
He's probably getting there tomorrow, 2 days of practice. He probably doesn't play. But give it a week and he'll be suiting up. So
yeah, and that, I think either you sell Madison now with the projection that he has, like, I mean, it's kind of like a fleece if you do it though. Just 'cause it's like if they don't know, I don't know, but he's gonna probably have a good week. He's probably gonna have a good projection next week, and then I don't know.
So this is like a scenario that's happening in our league right now. Trey's team doesn't really have a good running back. He's waiting for Kamara to come back, who is going to miss this week.
Right.
Madison is a player that he could kind of go after and say, I just need you for this week. Then Kamara comes back and whatever happens with him can happen.
Like, what do you give up that's like reasonable?
That's such a low value
It
like,
is.
for 1 week.
Yeah. Like, you're not giving up a starter, obviously.
No, absolutely.
I mean, it's got to be like
a
It's like a
mid-value
fringe
bench.
waiver guy.
like
you
a
know?
like a Jalen Warren.
Like Cortland
Yeah.
Sutton. You're trading Cortland
but
Sutton.
like
for
there's like I
Madison?
legitimately
Ooh.
would probably like rather start Jalen Warren like
Yeah, I don't think I'd
for
trade
more
Sutton
weeks
for
from
him.
maybe
now
this
on.
week.
Yeah.
That's a hot take, but they're playing the Raiders.
Dude, Warren's
and
like
I
a
think he just
12-2.
might.
He's like a 12-2 projection this week.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think he's a good guy to throw into a trade. Like you got to trade, and they're like, I don't know if it's really. I really want to do that, and you say I'll give you Madison too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's. I think I'm with the way I am. Madison isn't a starter for me anymore. Thank God that I made those trades. It was unfortunate because I had him, Javante, and Pacheco, and I traded the other two to get DK Metcalf, and I kept Madison, and I was stuck by that. I was like, I like Madison the most out of these three. I'd feel so much better if Javante was that bench guy for me.
Yeah.
But it's whatever. Like he's a bench running back at the end of the day. Like if I have to start him during a bye week, maybe he can score a touchdown for me. You know, like he's still gonna have weeks where he gets double-digit points.
Yeah.
But he's not a consistent double-digit points guy anymore.
Yeah.
Even though he never was.
That's one big thing about fantasy and like running backs right now, is like you get so worried. Like Josh Jacobs, you get so worried, but like the Bills are like locks right now on defense against the run. Like you just gotta it's a long season.
Exactly.
Like obviously negative yards is crazy, but it's the same way with the Cowboys. Like you can't overreact to these guys having bad weeks against the best defenses, and some
Uh-huh.
guys might play a top 5 like run defense the first 2 weeks of the year. But then they're going to go play the Raiders and they're going to score 3 touchdowns. Like Josh Jacobs is going to probably have a game this year with 3 touchdowns.
Right.
Yeah.
I think looking at it from the other way, Cam Akers, if Cam Akers like got dropped in your league after last week, 'cause it was really weird. Like it came out was it like a half hour before the game, or half hour before 1:00?
Yeah.
'Cause
like,
it was-
hey, Cam Akers is.
It was
we're
one
not playing
report
him.
where he was like, he's inactive for tonight, and then another report came in and it was like, he's done.
Yeah,
like he's
like,
out on
we're
the
gonna
Rams
trade him,
organization.
yeah. Which was so, and then you went through the tough choice of starting Moss or Kyron Williams, and they just both went off anyways. So I don't. But if Cam Akers is in your waivers, he probably deserves an ad. But like, I don't think it's like worth using a waiver on. Like if you have to use or if you're in a fob money league, like, I don't think you drop the load for Cam Akers. Like
No, like a couple bucks maybe.
Yeah,
seriously,
if if he stays in your weight, like, and as far as like if you have short roster spots, like, it's not worth dropping anyone that's like decent for him, I don't think.
No.
But we'll see what happens with him going forward. So do you guys want to do waiver ads right now, or should we do injury report first?
Let's do injury report because you mentioned Jerome Ford and
Right.
and, yeah, might
That's
as
a
well
good
just go
point.
right
Yeah.
into it.
So let's hop into the injury report. Starting off with the big one, Nick Chubb. Don't even know what injury. We just know it's a bad one, and he is going to be out for the rest of the season. Let's hope that's where it ends, and it's not anything that's going to affect him in coming seasons. Just a terrible. I don't know how you guys are with sports injuries, but I like can't watch them like more than once. Like I get really like sick to my stomach watching like injuries like that. Oh, and that just I feel so bad for Nick Chubb, dude, because that ruined that whole game too. Because like the
Yeah.
Browns are screwed. I feel like.
Yeah. I don't know. That's like very rarely do we see this happen, but that's one of the injuries where I'm a Nick Chubb owner. You separate yourself from fantasy at that point, and it kind of switches into the gear. Like I hope he's okay. I hope he makes a recovery, and maybe he can return to football at this point.
Right.
Because I mean, everyone knows Nick Chubb had the injury in college that absolutely ripped his knee apart. This is the same leg. You just kind of Nick Chubb as a player has always been, I always feel like, one of the most pure rushers that we've ever seen in the NFL. And so it's one of those things where you just separate yourself from fantasy and you feel bad for him. You feel bad for the Browns, and it's just a really unfortunate situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that like Nick Chubb going down, if you are a Nick Chubb owner, you would have loved to got Jerome Ford, but Kareem Hunt today gets picked up. Is Jerome Ford still like a major like #1 waiver ad pickup of this week?
in my opinion, he is.
Yeah.
In my opinion, he's not.
Okay.
And I think it's just the addition of Kareem Hunt already being a part of that system and already being successful behind Nick Chubb like we saw. I don't think it's going to take him very long to kind of get back into the flow of things. And I think he's going to kind of pick up in a spot where he's comfortable and the Browns like him.
Yeah.
So is the question, is he the best pickup this week?
Yes.
Then yeah, I still think he is. They came out today and said he's still our guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, he looked good. I think he is.
I
also don't have anybody else like that I'm high on this week.
Yeah,
right.
that's true.
That's kind of how I feel. Like I don't know if he'll be like the best waiver ad of like the season.
Yeah, like
But-
I was watching a podcast, like a fantasy podcast yesterday, and this was before the Kareem news came, obviously, and they were saying like fab dump wise, like 80 out of 100.
Yeah.
Like legit, like it's not that anymore.
Yeah.
So that's the difference.
If you did
it was
that-
like it was looking like a top waiver pickup of the year, and
Yeah.
now I think it's just the top of this week. Mm-hmm. Maybe the top of the next couple weeks,
Right.
but yeah, he did definitely cap the ceiling. The Kareem
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, and I think that Ford, like, if you have Nick Chubb, or even just in general, if you got Jerome Ford and you need an RB, like, I think you still start him this week for sure.
Yeah.
He's got like a 13-9 projection, I think, or 14-9, one of the two.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's been affected now that Kareem Hunt is there, but like you said, it's hard to judge because Kareem Hunt has been there with Cleveland, like for the last 3 seasons, and now he's back. It's the same regime that has been there for so many years. Like, it's at least the same coaching staff. Maybe offensive coordinators have switched, but I think it's not going to take him very long to get back into the groove of things. But like you said, they said Jerome Ford is their guy, and he looked really good after Nick Chubb went out. That dude is fast. Like, he is very, very fast. So I think that you still feel safe starting Jerome Ford. It'll be interesting the following week.
Yeah.
At least based off of if he goes off again this week, has 100 yards rushing, because he's a good receiving back as well, it looks like. If he goes off, I don't know how you can take him out of that offense as much. Kareem Hunt kind of has to be limited, I feel
exactly.
I definitely don't think. I'm playing Jerome Ford, so I might be jinxing myself, but I don't really think this is going to be his week.
No.
Playing the Titans.
Yeah, Titans defense has been pretty good so far.
But, yeah. I'm a 50-50 part. 50% of me is I think Jerome will be the guy, and the other 50 is it's just going to be Hunt because he's just always been there.
Right.
Yeah.
They're going to be in games where it's me I want him to have the ball. I want the ball in his hands right now. I trust him more.
Right.
And I feel like looking back onto the Browns team that we saw with Kareem Hunt obviously playing super well, and then Nick Chubb, who's been an elite back, there were times where Nick Chubb kind of got the go-ahead in some drives and even in the red zone where they really leaned on him as opposed to Nick Chubb, who we know is an elite power back. So just kind of depends on how they feel about him.
Was it last year that Dearness Johnson had some big
Yeah.
Yes.
what happened there? Did Hunt
It was either last year or the year before. I
It
can't
seemed like it
remember.
was they signed Hunt or Kareem again.
I think it was Hunt last year. Kind of
I think
fell
it was
off
2
a
years
little
ago.
bit.
Was it last year that Dearness went off, or was it 2 years
Yeah,
ago?
because Kareem Hunt did not
Okay.
have a good year last year.
No,
with the
he
Browns.
didn't.
And I think everyone was kind of waiting because there was a big thing in the offseason. Are they going to re-sign him?
Right.
And they obviously this is the other part that I think Jerome Ford was on the team when they had the choice to re-sign Kareem Hunt, and obviously they liked Jerome Ford more than Kareem Hunt. Otherwise, they would have signed him.
Right.
So that's a positive if you did get Jerome Ford.
And I assume Kareem Hunt also was just asking for more
Yeah.
money than Jerome Ford,
Yeah.
just because he's a veteran and everything. So, yeah, Dearness, though, has been a good backup for Nick Chubb, too, in the past. So I wonder if he's still around anywhere. Probably not. He's
I don't
probably
know.
done. Yeah, but I think that you
It
still feel...
almost smells like the Ravens to me.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that it's I guess that is a good point because I want to say that this offense is you trust the running backs a little bit more in this offense than you do in Baltimore, but it's kind of hard to because Nick Chubb is not the same as those other guys, So I guess we'll see what happens, but I think you're still fine starting Jerome Ford this week. After that, though, kind of have to just see what happens. Let's talk about Thursday night injury. Saquon Barkley has officially been ruled out. Really weird injury situation there because after their game on Sunday, he told reporters, yeah, I got a sprained ankle. I'm going to be out 3 to 4 weeks. And then Brian Dable the next day goes, yeah, he's game time decision for Thursday. He might play, which just came out of nowhere. Officially ruled out for this game. Is anyone in the Giants backfield, Matt Breida, Gary Brightwell, Eric Gray, or any of these guys add on in free agency?
An ad?
Yes.
I like Breida the most, but I don't like any of them that much.
Yeah.
I saw you you picked up Gray.
I picked up Gray just because I had picked up Zonovan Knight as a meme, and then I was like, okay, I probably should pick up a guy that maybe has a chance. I basically only picked up Gray in case he goes off, so I just have him.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's gonna go off by any means.
I think Breida's the pickup. This week especially is really tough for Saquon going down. They play the Niners, who has an elite defense. I think that is going to get really out of hand. Especially they're going to be put in a position where they're not going to want to run the ball a lot.
Yeah.
And then after this week, it kind of turns into the question of if Saquon almost played this week, is he going to be good to go next week?
Gonna have
and
a 10-day rest.
If he is good to go next week, obviously he's the guy, and it just kind of turns into a waiting game at that point.
Right. That's where I don't think if you have a high waiver pick, I don't think it's worth it.
No.
And it's probably I don't know who they play next week, but after Danny Dimes had a good game, I think if they're gonna go to anybody to run the ball, it's probably gonna be him now that Saquon's out.
Yeah.
He could vulture touchdowns in the red zone. I don't think it's really worth if he's there after your waiver's clear, just pick him up.
Yeah.
There's no reason not to, but I don't. That's why I'm saying about Jerome Ford. He's definitely the best this week.
For sure.
I don't know if there's anybody else.
And Breida low-key could be second. And that's how there really isn't any top waiver guys. Yeah, I think that we're most likely going to see a committee situation out of New York. And also how likely is it that New York is just down 21-0 by the second quarter, and they're not going to be running the football anyways. Breida could maybe get some receiving work he kind of has in the past, and him and Brian Dable were together in Buffalo, so they are familiar with each other, familiar offenses. But yeah, I don't think you don't have to pick up any of these guys. If I'm being honest, like you said, if they're there after your waivers clear, sure. Like I picked up Gray strictly because he's the rookie there. Like maybe they decide to give him the ball to see what he can do. But I'm not confident in him by any means. I just picked him up in case he goes crazy. Then I can just try and trade him to whoever has Saquon. So that's basically my strategy there. Next injury. This one could be detrimental to multiple fantasy players. And it's the Joe Burrow lingering calf injury, the injury that held him out of most of training camp. He returned right at the end of preseason. And apparently this injury just has not gone away, and it's kind of just gotten slid under the rug by Zach Taylor and the rest of the staff. Burrow said it. He said, yeah, this has been bothering me all year, and he's coming questionable into the Monday night game against the Rams. But this affects T. Higgins. This affects Jamar Chase, who already has been underperforming. And this affects Joe Mixon, but I don't know in what kind of way. So what does the Joe Burrow injury mean if this is a real thing?
It's difficult to say because obviously we're coming off a week where T. Higgins just put up a lot of points. And like you said, Jamar has been underperforming. How much that has to do with Burrow or the way that teams are just playing them right now is tough to say. As far as Joe Mixon goes, I don't think it hurts him as much as the receivers. Obviously, it just kind of takes away from the potency of the offense. They're not going to score as much if this really affects Burrow, like he says it might.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really know what to do with Jamar at this point. He's still Jamar Chase. You have to start him. He's going to be one of those receivers that could go for 30 at any given time, but he just has got a slow start to the year. So
right.
It's tough too because you clearly see what the floor is, even with Burrow there. And that's not really where you want the floor to be with the second overall guy taken in a draft.
Yeah.
Especially when Jets' floor, he hasn't scored a touchdown yet this year, and he's averaging 25.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, and McCaffrey clearly is going ballistic. So it's tough, and you don't like seeing that's the floor with Burrow or hurt Burrow. What's the floor with whoever the backup is?
I just saw who their backup is. I can't remember. It's obviously someone not very good.
And he could get hyper targeted, which you hope, I guess, in fantasy, but I don't know. I think if Burrow goes down, they're gonna double Jamar and make T. Higgins make the quarterback and T. Higgins
make plays.
Beat them.
Yeah.
That's a smart strategy to take in my opinion.
Here's a viable question. In the 10-man league, this doesn't really apply in 12-man because there's just not enough guys. I have T. Higgins. Joe Burrow ruled out Monday night. Is it a real question mark to continue to start T. Higgins going into Monday night, or do I bench him for I have Terry McLaurin on my bench. Do I start Terry McLaurin over T. Higgins?
McLaurin plays Buffalo, correct?
Yes.
I think he's still
just a guy in that. It doesn't specifically have to be him though. Just any guy in that range. Is it? Do you actually Is it you're starting T. Higgins no matter what? Basically, is what I'm asking. Even if Burrow doesn't play, do you still just trust that T. Higgins it could have touchdown potential still? And
yeah, I think you trust it for now, and then until you really see what the backup can bring in. I personally wouldn't really feel comfortable starting a Terry McLaurin over him as of right now.
It would feel kind of wrong.
It would.
Yeah.
Especially if he goes off like he did last week, then you're just going to feel that was the move and you didn't do it.
Then he gets zero.
That's the worry. Is that he does good, you don't start him and you lose.
Especially on Monday.
You just feel dumb.
Yeah, that's very true. And Terry has 7.5.
There's certain it's matchup to matchup, a guy that I think Mike Williams has a great chance this week.
Yeah.
Just because of the matchup against the Vikings. So it's just guy to guy to me. I think pretty much for everybody they're probably gonna start him.
Yeah, I think I would think so for the most part. It's definitely a bit of an overreaction. But that kind of we can I know we're in the injury part right now, but I do kind of want to talk about Jamar Chase, so we might as well do it while we're here. What if you are a Jamar Chase owner? So far he has 17.2 points through 2 weeks of fantasy. He's projected 19.6 this week.
So can I throw you guys a predicament that I'm in one of my leagues? I have Jamar Chase. I have Mike Evans. I have Puka Nacua. And I have Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm seriously debating starting Mike Evans or Puka Nacua over Jamar Chase right now.
That is That is so hard.
It is. It's really tough, and obviously it's a little less hard because Amon-Ra's having some injury issues
Didn't
right now
practice.
too. But all three of those guys have outscored Jamar Chase every single week.
What do you think? I don't really know what I would do. Like who you bench? Oh, that's so hard.
For Jamar? Oh, for you, who you?
Yeah.
Would
Like
bench?
out of those 4,
I would bench Mike Evans, and I'd close the book on it, and not even think about it.
just like just not even check fantasy.
I'd just be like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the smart thing to do. Because I
Right.
think, like, to me, Jamar is I know, like, Burrow this could be all year, but like, if you're 2-0, he's probably the best guy to target. I've been targeting him. I've been offering kind of crazy ththings that I probably shouldn't be because I just want him.
I
Because
tried.
I see brighter days.
Trey don't want to trade him.
Yeah, like, what did you offer him?
I
Just
offered him
quickly.
T Higgins and I offered him T Higgins. Didn't really make sense because it was Mixon too. It was T Higgins, Mixon, and Javonte before I traded Javonte for Jamar,
I
which is a
offered
lot.
I offered him Waddle and Zach Moss, which is decent.
Yeah.
And I told him I would do Keenan or Devonta straight up, which is, I don't know if I would have done Devonta Smith straight up. I don't know how I feel about
Yeah.
him. I think he's a good, like, if you're in a good spot, I think he's a good guy to try and go get, though.
Yeah, I think so too, for sure.
I think he's like an amplified version of T Higgins, where like it's Jamar Chase. If you bench him and he does Jamar Chase things, you're gonna feel so dumb that you
Yeah.
just like even considered bringing him off the squad.
No, yeah, it was T Higgins, Madison, and Javonte. That was my offer to him, which I feel like I thought he would
Yeah, it's a
consider
good
that.
offer.
But like even T Higgins for Jamar Chase straight up. Like you probably don't do it if you have Jamar Chase because it's just
Yeah.
they're on the same team.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, T Higgins putting up 0 week 1 definitely makes things like a little bit tricky there. But yeah, like you're in a tough spot with Jamar because if you like, especially with the Burrow injury, like because before this Burrow injury news came out, it's like okay, you can't trade Jamar because his value's so low. Like you have to just ride it out. But now that Burrow's hurt, it's like oh, like could it get worse than this? You know, like
Yeah.
could he lower to the 6 range? Like then it becomes very difficult to try and justify whether or not you trade him. I think if you do own Jamar, you just gotta decline all offers.
Yeah.
Unless you get the ultimate bag.
Yeah. I think it's such a tough spot because you have to think a guy with Jamar probably isn't 2-0.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like,
They kind of are desperate. Yeah.
is Jamar not going to be good until week 8? Like, seriously, like, is Burrow not going to be fully healthy?
Right.
Let's say he misses 3 weeks. Like, he probably won't, but like,
He could.
you got to win some weeks to make the playoffs. Like, I think Jamar, like, let's look at Jamar's schedule in like fantasy playoffs.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So that's the other thing while Ivan's looking.
Okay,
this
see,
up.
I like week 17 is going to be the championship for a lot of people. Plays the Chiefs. It's the kind of guy, if you make it, you kind of want to have, in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
But they play Arizona in week 5 and Seattle in week 6. I think he'll probably, like, by week 7, that's their bye.
That seems like the
he'll
time.
be in a lot better of a place.
I'd hope
He'll
so.
probably be averaging like 16, 17.
But if you have Jamar and you lose this week and you're 0-3, like, do you have to consider trading him for multiple pieces? You know, like I think you definitely
Yeah.
have to at least try. Maybe listen to offers. You don't got to shop him by any means, but
It's tough because, like you said, if you're 0-2, 0-3, you get put into a position where like you have to sell him for less than you drafted him.
Yeah.
at. I think in that league, I took him either third or fourth in the first round, and it's like he's definitely not gonna get that right
No.
now. And how much like trust do you have in him to get that, at least recover some of that value?
I think it's very similar to the Garrett Wilson situation.
yeah.
There's
Except
definitely
Garrett
a
Wilson
lot
wasn't
higher.
drafted 3rd overall.
Yeah, and there's a lot higher, but the Jamar has better chance
Yeah, I get
of
what you're
getting
saying.
back to it, in my opinion.
For sure, definitely does.
It's so tough.
Yeah, I don't own
There's
Jamar in
not
any leagues.
there's not an answer to the question, in my opinion.
I think you just have to wait.
Yeah.
And hopefully Burrow just plays through this and finds him more. Okay, let's get through some more of this this injury report here. These ones are less important. Some Lions injury news. David Montgomery is questionable. He told reporters after the game that he was going to miss multiple weeks. And then Dan Campbell in his press conference yesterday said, yeah, Montgomery's day-to-day. What's up with these coaches? Just like their running backs are like, yeah, man, I need some weeks to heal. And they're like, nope, you might play. So he is day-to-day with a thigh injury. I would say it's more than likely that he doesn't play this week. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown is questionable with, I think, turf toe. Like, Dan Campbell got asked today if it was turf toe, and he, like, didn't say yes. but like he basically said, yeah, it is, which like isn't great. That's not like a good injury to have by any means. So basically what I'm saying is, what does this mean for like Jahmyr Gibbs and potentially like is Josh Reynolds like an auto start if Amon-Ra St. Brown don't play this week?
This is an odd situation because I think the Lions are like pretty well off as far as offensive weapons go. David Montgomery being out, Jahmyr Gibbs full go. I think he's gonna be a horse for them. As far as the receivers go, it's a little more tricky because Amon-Ra is obviously the one there. But Khalif Raymond, Josh Reynolds, I mean those dudes can get the job done. I think either one of them kind of. I don't think they'll both go crazy. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of you take your pick of the two and you have a 50-50 shot.
Yeah. Ivan, you're a Jahmyr Gibbs owner. How confident are you going into this week if David Montgomery doesn't play?
I'm confident, but I don't have like super high expectations.
Yeah.
I think I don't think he's going to be playing more than 60% of the snaps.
I agree.
And I don't think he's going to have the goal line. I don't think he's going to jump into the Montgomery role. Like, I think they've made it very clear that they don't want him carrying the ball 15 times in a game.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just I just don't think it's going to ever happen this year.
It might like towards the end, but
yeah, maybe like he's just never going to be. I didn't draft him to be that guy.
Yeah.
He's going to have huge games because he's going to. Like, he hasn't had one yet, but he will bust a 60-yarder.
Exactly.
Whether it's a pass or a run, he's so fast.
And, like, he add that to his 7 catches that he got last game.
He had the team high 9 targets.
Uh-huh.
So, he's a must start to me every week until it's just, like, 3 weeks in a row.
He has major
3
boom
targets
potential
and 5
every
carries.
week.
Yeah. I mean, being the Amon-Ra might be limited, you have to start him.
Yeah. And I think that I personally, like, just from being a Lions fan, like, I can guarantee you Craig Reynolds and Zonovan Knight will have more carries together than Jahmyr Gibbs will have on Sunday, which, like, that's going to upset a lot of people on Twitter, especially Jahmyr Gibbs fantasy owners that aren't Lions fans, and the Lions fans that are, like, super pissed off, like, oh, we took Jahmyr Gibbs in the first round to give him the ball 4 times a game. Like, you know, just those people who are Twitter GMs. Like Craig Reynolds is going to get a hefty amount of carries on Sunday.
I wouldn't be shocked if Craig has the highest carry count.
And I
think he probably will.
I think if you are desperate for a running back start, like desperate, Craig Reynolds, I think like has a good shot just to get it in the end zone. And I think that I think he'd get you 10. I don't know if he's
I like Craig Reynolds more than Breida this week.
Yeah, I totally agree. 100%.
That's a good line. I like him more than we didn't talk about these guys in the waiver ads, but any Saints running backs.
Yep.
I like him more than them. Those are like the big teams right now.
Yeah.
It's like the Saints and the Giants.
Yeah.
Because they're obviously lost.
They lost their running backs. So yeah, I think Craig could definitely like if you absolutely need a running back this week, I think you could start him. But we'll see. I think Zonovan Knight is better than Craig Reynolds. But Craig Reynolds has been on the team for years, and they talk about him how he's a great blocking running back, so that's why he probably will get more reps. But Zonovan Knight is just such a cool name too. Like Zonovan Bam, dude. Like that's just awesome. You just brought it up, but Jamal Williams, he's not listed as out yet, but he has a 0 projection, and it kind of just sounds like he's not going to play. Hamstring injury on Monday night, which is unfortunate because obviously Alvin Kamara's already out. But their rookie Kendre Miller is going to make his season debut this week, and also Tony Jones Jr. rushed in 2 touchdowns. But you kind of already said you don't really feel confident in either one of those guys this week.
Yeah, I think if I had picked one, it'd be Kendre Miller.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they're dart throws to me.
Yeah.
For sure.
Like you said, 2 touchdowns last week for Tony Jones. Can't really rely on either one of them to get you a solid production.
Especially because this is a 1-week thing.
Yeah.
Like, Kamara's back after this week. And also, if Jamal Williams, goes on IR or something, like, Kamara, dude, like, how high is that stock, you know? Like,
yeah.
He wasn't very good last year. That's the only problem. And Jamal wasn't there, so.
To me, I think Kamara is like the Gibbs thing we just talked about.
Yeah.
They're not going to use him. They're going to use him a little more than Gibbs probably, but I just don't really think he's going to ever be the workhorse.
Yeah, that's true. It is nice because it's not like he's like coming back from like an injury or anything.
Yeah.
So they probably don't have to like work him in or anything, but
there probably is a good shot he gets a lot of goal line carries though.
Probably.
Like, just because he's still a good goal line back.
Kamara's been a weird running back ever since like he's kind of like came onto the scene. He's had games where he has 6 carries and 10 receptions, Or he's had games where he has 18 carries
Yeah.
and 3 receptions.
And then gets in the end zone a bunch of times.
Yeah, so
That's how I think. How I feel Gibbs is gonna be.
Yeah, I mean, he's
just
like the
very
comparison,
unpredictable. Like what? It's just game script. Like
players like that, they just use them how they need them in the moment in the game. And
that's why they have Montgomery, because they know what they're getting from him on a week-to-week basis.
Exactly.
Okay, only a few other ones. We kind of touched on Austin Eckler already, so we don't have to talk about that. Christian Watson may be returning or maybe starting for the first time this season. Jalen Waddle, concussion. I mean, there's not really any like things that come from that. Like Tyreek Hill, obviously, you're starting him. You're not gonna start Trent Sherfield or Braxton Berrios, so like. Yeah. It just kind of sucks if he doesn't play, you know. I think this is kind of an important one. Anthony Richardson is still being in concussion protocol. He's a guy that maybe you start at quarterback eventually, and maybe you start him this week because he got off to a really good start this week. But I think it does affect Zach Moss a lot if Anthony Richardson plays or not, because Zach Moss wasn't going off until Gardner Minshew came in the game and they started feeding him, and Moss had a huge game. So I think that plays a huge consideration into because he's a starter, I think, if Richardson doesn't play.
Yeah.
So do you currently have him starting or no?
No.
Or wait, Aaron Jones, is he back this week?
He didn't.
I have him written down at the bottom.
He didn't practice today.
Yeah.
And Christian Watson did, so. So
do you start A.J. Dillon or Zach Moss this week? Like, in a world where Aaron Jones doesn't play.
Who do the Packers play?
They play.
Indiana plays Baltimore, I think.
Green Bay plays. Yeah, I can't think of it at the moment. Seth's checking for us.
The Green Bay Packers play the Saints.
Okay. Saints have not allowed a touchdown this season in 2 games. But they've played 2 like subpar offenses, but still. The Packers are a subpar offense. So
what's the question, Dillon or who?
Dillon or Moss?
Moss plays
with
Baltimore.
Richardson out?
With Richardson and Jones out. Like both of the guys they need out are out.
Yeah.
I probably would start Moss.
Yeah. It like going into last week, you'd definitely say Dillon, but Dillon didn't look very good.
It's one of those things that Dillon will do better.
Yeah, probably. You feel more confident starting Moss, I would say. Now if Richardson plays, then it's a different story. You know, I think that Moss will still be like the main back in that offense, but it's just how much is Anthony Richardson taken away from him? You know, which he's
gonna be like a volume play every week in my opinion.
I think so too. And then like the only other one like that I have written down here is Kenneth Gainwell. Like if he returns, like do you lose your confidence in DeAndre Swift? Because Swift just dominated in that game against Minnesota. So. But Gainwell was totally outcarried him in week 1. Like, I hate that whole situation if you have any of those guys. But if Gainwell plays this week, like, do you start Swift? I feel like you kind of have to still, right?
Yeah, I think Swift kind of commanded his respect with the game last week. Maybe the first week he was there, he was still a little shaky. They didn't really trust him. I think that's kind of out the window right now. They've got the best offensive line, arguably, in football. And Swift went crazy last week. I think that was his highest rushing yards ever.
It was.
Yeah, so.
I agree.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think a big part of me just thinks they just did week 1. They just wouldn't have gone out there like they did with Gainwell, and then not like a 1 week off isn't going to take them out of that script.
Yeah.
Like he's been there for years, like a few years, right?
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
I think they could use Gainwell like more because like in previous seasons he's like been used a lot as a receiver. Like last season he didn't get much run action at all. He just was used as a receiver a lot. So I could see that, and then but Swift is a kind of a receiving back too. So I don't know. That's a weird situation. I think this week will tell a lot. But if Gainwell doesn't play, Swift is an obvious start, like for sure if you have him. Okay, we can do a quick waiver ads here, but we've kind of brought up like almost every guy. Like for me, like Jerome Ford was at the top of the list. I talked about Josh Reynolds already. I think he's a must add for the Lions. Even Craig Reynolds. I have one guy, but I think that you might have him. So I'm gonna like wait.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want me to go then?
Sure. Yeah.
the guy that I think you're talking about is Tank Dell.
It is Tank Dell.
I picked him up. Is that why
I
you
was
said
gonna
that?
I was gonna pick him up. Yeah.
He had 10 targets last week, and their number 2 receiver, obviously Nico Collins. Or is Robert Woods there?
Woods is there, and he's projected like 10 something. But
I don't know if
I
Woods
don't
would be
think- I
considered
don't
their
think
wide
he
receiver
is.
too. Anyways, their other receiver that they had starting is on IR now, and so obviously he commanded a lot of targets last week. I think he could be a pretty good streaming option. I wouldn't set your hopes too high. He's definitely like not starting for you.
No, but he's just like
he's a good
stash.
stash.
Yeah,
just
I
to
think so.
have.
What about you, Ivan? You got any other waiver ads for this week?
I think Tutu Atwell should be rostered in every league.
Yeah.
He was like below 50. I think he was about 15%.
Yeah, I think he was too.
And he was the one that he probably like after Cup comes back, he definitely will not be in that role because Puka's going to go to that role in my opinion, which is still 9 targets or whatever.
Definitely, yeah.
But I think Tutu will be good for the next few weeks.
Yeah, I like that pick as well. Yeah, Tank Dell was like the only other guy that I had on here that wasn't the other guys I said. Do you guys have any other guys, like any waiver guys that you're looking at?
I've got one. Adam Thielen, 11 targets, 20 points last week. Maybe could be settling into a role there on that offense where he feels comfortable and they kind of give him the ball more. But again, can't really count on anything there.
Yeah, it's a tough offense.
It's a good stash to
definitely
maybe,
a good guy to roster.
If he emerges as a clear-cut number 1 receiver, then yeah.
I won't because I hate him. But
So would you rather have Thielen all year or Mingo? Because to me, like Mingo's a rookie.
Yeah.
And I just think it's one of those things where the rookie just slowly gets more and more into the offense.
Yeah.
So I think that's the only thing holding me back from Thielen. And Bryce
think
Young's hurt now, apparently.
The one that's
Did see
tough. Bryce Young is?
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing that's tough is like with Bryce Young being a rookie quarterback, you can sometimes count on like rookies just leaning heavily on like a veteran presence, you know? Thielen has obviously been doing it for a long time. So yeah. I don't know which one. I don't know which one I would like more. Maybe Mingo long run for sure.
I don't know. I think it might be Thielen. They went to him. They scored a touchdown. They needed a 2-point conversion. He went right back to him.
Yeah. So if Thielen settles in as the wide receiver 1 there, yeah, I'd be comfortable with that. But
yeah,
neither one of them I don't think you consider for a start in the next.
Yeah, no,
weeks.
I don't think you're like rushing to the waivers to pick either of these guys up. Okay, I think that can take us into the funnest segment of the show, and that is boom or bust picks for week 3. Like I said, last week I went 0 for 4, Ivan went 1 for 4, and Seth went 2 for 4. But now that we got a week under our belts, like it's time to knock these picks out of the park. I hope we all go 4 for 4.
Me too.
And just look like freaking geniuses.
It's really funny that you said that because this was so tough this week.
No, it actually is funny I said that because I am going to go 4 for 4. Okay, who wants to start? Like you said, the projections are weird this week, man. Ivan, you're starting.
Do you guys want to do the booms and then the busts?
You can go however you'd like.
All right. My first boom of the week is Jordan Addison.
Okay, back to back.
That was him last week.
Right, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Jordan Addison, he's projected 10.9. They are playing the Dolphins. I think it'll be the highest scoring game of this week. And, yeah, I think he's going to have a good week.
I think it is very safe to say that all of us will have a player picked from that game to boom this week. I don't know about you, but it just seems like the boom game for sure. So, Seth, who is your first boom and or bust?
Oh, it's so tough. I've got a lot of names written down here. I go with the strategy of I write down like 8 and I just kind of pick them on the spot.
Right.
I'm going to go with a bust. I'm going to go Joe Mixon, projected 16.7, going against my Rams.
Okay. God, that would suck so bad. It's all right.
But, yeah, like we
said,
said, Burrow being hurt, he hasn't really done a whole lot. I can see it.
Yeah, I definitely I think Mixon has a high projection this week too. The Rams defense has been good against backs so far. I mean, I guess McCaffrey.
That's McCaffrey.
He's a little bit different. They did good against Kenneth Walker, so yeah, it depends on with Burrow. I really don't know if that is good or bad for Mixon. I really can't figure it out. Okay, my first one, I'm going with the homer pick. I try not to pick guys on my own squad to boom because it just seems like kind of messed up.
That's the thing though. Seth picked guys on his squad and it worked. And last week he picked guys to bust that he was playing against, and it kind of worked. Which is a crazy eggs in the basket play.
I was just putting it out there and hoping the universe sent it back.
That was crazy, dude. That could have totally backfired. I'm going Stephon Diggs boom this week. Stephon Diggs has a projection of 16.6. Feel like that's a little bit low-key disrespectful for Stephon Diggs.
Agree.
I think that Washington, the first 2 weeks, they allowed Mike Williams, or like in their first 2 games, Mike Williams and Marvin Mims Mike Evans and Marvin Mims, multiple deep balls in that game. Yeah, I know Gabe Davis is like the deep ball guy, so I kind of thought about him. But I'm playing against Gabe Davis, and I have Diggs. Also, Diggs went 7 for 7 on his targets last week, and I think he's just going to get more than 7 targets. They were blowing out the Raiders. I think this Washington game is going to be a really good game. Washington's front 7 dominates the run, so I think that Josh Allen's going to be scrambling, looking for his guy a lot. I think Diggs gets me 21.6 this week.
That's a great boom pick.
Thank you.
I think that projection's just...
It seems very
just
low,
gross,
right? It's like I think 18 minimum projection.
What did he do wrong? What last week? Like Jamar's projected 19. I'm just
exactly
saying.
yeah.
Maybe
I thought that was weird.
Diggs didn't have the greatest week. I think he had like 14, but like
7 for 7 though. Like
exactly, yeah. Like what if he had 11 targets like he normally does? You know, like I don't know. I thought that was definitely a bit disrespectful. But go ahead with another pick, Ivan.
I'm gonna get my last. Wait, did you go bust?
He went bust, I went boom, and you went boom.
I'm going to get my other boom out of the way. I've got a Laporta boom.
Ooh.
He's projected 9. I think Amon-Ra's limited. If he goes, Laporta booms.
I like that pick a lot, actually. Dude, Laporta, you know, he broke the record last week for most receptions in the first 2 games of a career from a tight end ever in NFL history, not just Lions history. It's only 10 receptions. But like rookie tight ends just like don't be doing it like that. So yeah, Laporta looks really good after the catch, man. He had those 2 plays where he just broke through everybody. Like, and that's kind of what he was coming out of college. So yeah, I think that Laporta definitely could be like the safety blanket for Goff this week. Especially if Amon-Ra doesn't play. So Seth, give us a boom and or bust.
It's funny that Ivan brought up my strategy for last week, picking my guys to boom. I'm going to go right back to it this week. Honestly, almost same scenario you've got. I'm going CeeDee Lamb, projected 16.2. He's booming against the Cardinals. Danny Dimes just carved him up in the second half. Dallas's defense is on point right now. There's no reason that he just can't go crazy.
16.2 was his projection, you said? Okay. Just want to make sure I got that written down in case things change. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that pick. I mean, he went off last week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
he's been real solid.
I don't see why against a good defense. So against a bad defense, could definitely see him going crazy again. Okay, so I have I have one bust pick like locked in, and I'm thinking about like the other one. I have a couple options. By the way, I'm not picking this guy. Matt Breida will bust tomorrow night. I just didn't feel like doing him as a bust.
Yeah.
He's projected 9.2. Like he will bust. I'm just calling that. But I'm not picking it. I'm following up a pick that you had last week that didn't hit. Garrett Wilson bust this week. He's projected even more than he was last week at 14.3 this week. Playing against the New England defense who kind of didn't hold Tyreek, but like did a solid job against the pass.
They had a nice scheme too, and I think they're going to come with that kind of like a specific scheme to take away the one guy that scored on the Cowboys.
Wilson, try to throw to Randall Cobb. Yeah, like we'll see. So the Patriots haven't done very good against the run so far this year. Because they've played against 2 elite passing offenses. So I mean, this week they might try something different. But like you said, they're clearly going to try and take him out of this game and make Zach Wilson beat him with his other weapons. So I think 9.3 from Garrett Wilson is so likely this week, like less than that. Especially like if he doesn't get a touchdown, he is not getting to 9. That's my prediction for that. So if he does get a touchdown,
I'm with you.
He's
just gonna score a touchdown.
Oh yeah, he probably will, and it'll hurt. But I'm following up with you though on the Garrett Wilson bust pick.
It is funny, like his 2 touchdowns, like each week are just freak touchdowns.
I know,
like that catch week 1 and then just a bomb week 2.
It's crazy. All right, Ivan, give us your first bust pick.
My first bust this week is Brian Robinson.
Ooh, Seth.
He's projected 12.9. Seeing what the Bills just did to Josh Jacobs, I just could see a bust here. I think he's had a great start to the year, and I think he's going to have to even it out. And I think this kind of a matchup is a matchup that he evens that scoring out.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I do think a guy like Brian Robinson is just not like he just is going to have weeks where he gets like 5. Like it'll just happen. But he has been involved in the pass game more than I thought, which is kind of like something, I guess. Because like Gibson apparently like just doesn't exist again, which is hilarious. Okay, Seth, what are you going here? A boom or bust?
I've got Brian Rutten. I actually do have him on here as one of my boom picks potentially. Oh, I'm in a tough spot right here.
That would be crazy if we.
I'm
ever
not
had,
super confident in the bust.
If we had
It's
ever
just,
intertwined, no, the bust picks are so hard this week, dude.
after watching what the Bills just did to Josh Jacobs, like
That's Josh Jacobs. Though. That's not Brian Robinson. That ain't the number 3 back in fantasy. I've got Bijan on here for a bust too. I don't know if I'm
Dude, I thought about it.
No,
put him in
he's
my
got quite the
pocket.
hot. Dude, low key, I thought about it because the Lions have been pretty good against the run.
they've been great against them.
Yeah. But also they haven't played the Atlanta Falcons, and their whole scheme is we're going to run the ball 45 times no matter what, even if it's not working.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of think like Bijan is probably still safe to get like 15. But yeah, I definitely thought about the Bijan bust.
Instead, I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to go with a different bust route. I'm going to go James Conner, projected 13.5, playing Dallas. He's busting this week.
Like that one.
I am a fan of that one as well. Yeah, 13 for Connor. Seems a bit high, especially with, what they did to the Jets last week. No back was getting any work in that offense. What was his projection?
13.5.
Okay. And want to know what's funny about that? I have James Conner on my list, and I'm debating if I should still use him or not because I have my 2 backups. I think I'm gonna wait. I think I'm gonna wait and make a decision and get my final bust or boom out of the way here, and then I'll make a decision on that. My final boom. Mike Williams going against the Minnesota Vikings, projected 13.8. Wanted to do Keenan here, but I just feel like the deep ball is just good. Like that Vikings secondary is so depleted, and Keenan is still gonna like have a great game for sure. But like Mike Williams, he just has those games where he'll get you 120 with a touchdown or 2, and I just think this screams that.
Yeah, and the projection's way different.
It's Keenan's projected like 16 or 17, right?
So it's a big swing.
Exactly. Or Mike
like
Williams is projected 13.8. Like I think you could guarantee a 60 to 80 yard game out of Mike Williams, and hopefully a touchdown as well. And he kind of is a guy where in smaller leagues, in 10-man leagues, he might be on your bench. So I think that you do have to make the decision to start him this week, for sure. Final pick here for Ivan. Who you gonna go with?
This is a spicy one. I'm gonna keep targeting these elite receivers to bust. I got Olave bust.
Ooh, okay.
It's projected 15.5. They're playing the Packers. I think Jair will be on him the whole game, and I think it's gonna be the Jair Jets game 2 of last year.
Yeah,
I think he's gonna shut him down. I think
definitely could be.
Jair likes to pick a guy to shut down. I think it's set in stone already.
I like that pick. And Michael Thomas has been pretty target heavy so far this
what's
season.
his name?
Yeah, Rashid Shaheed.
Yeah,
that's my second favorite name in the NFL, behind Zonovan Knight. Okay, Seth, what is you rounding it up here with your last boom pick?
My last boom pick. Does it have to be a boom pick?
It does have to be a boom pick. We did make the decision of 2 and 2.
Okay.
Dude,
So
wanted to do 3 busts.
I know. I would hate doing 3 busts, dude. I can't even barely get 2.
You guys want to hear I was going to pick for a bust too? I was going to go Devontae Adams.
Your own guy.
Yeah.
I've thought about doing that.
20 points against Pitt. It's just tough.
Dude, him having a 20 projection is a bit wild.
Yeah. Okay. Last boom pick. I'm going to go Darren Waller.
Ooh.
Against San Fran. Tough
Thursday
defense. Projected 11.1. Saquon's out. I think they're going to have a safety valve on that offense, and hopefully it's him.
And I don't think he's got a touchdown. Or no, I think he got a touchdown last week, actually. I can't remember. But if he hasn't, he's due. He'll get a touchdown here at some point. So, yeah, I could see that with Darren Waller. Are you guys have the first tight end picks? Oh, no, you had Mark Andrews last week. Yeah. I've been keeping it quite consistent. Like all 3 of my picks have been wide receivers. I thought about the quarterbacks, but it's just hard with the quarterbacks, man, because they're all just projected like Trevor Lawrence at 17 this week. Like, I feel like he's just going to get, like, 19, you know? So it's hard
I
to
thought
pick
about
that.
doing something real cheeky and picking, like, Jake Moody, the kicker for San Fran.
Oh, dude. That's not a bad
He's
one.
averaging, like, 14 points a
I
game.
dead ass looked at, like, defense numbers.
Dallas
and was
defense
like, yeah, I
against
was
the
thinking about
Cardinals?
boom
Yeah.
busting defenses.
Like,
dude.
Dallas is projected like 8-something against the Cardinals, dude.
They're almost a guaranteed 15.
That is like a guaranteed boom, yeah. Okay, my last one. I do want to give a quick thing that I almost did. I almost did the Kyle Pitts boom. And I like actually did research on this. I was gonna do it, but I felt way more confident in Diggs and Mike Williams. Last week the Lions allowed 132 yards on 9 catches to all of the Seattle's tight ends, and they've historically been bad against tight ends. And Kyle Pitts is like better than those other tight ends in real life, but in fantasy football he just like doesn't get the ball ever. So it's hard with him. But like I think this could be a week where Pitts goes off, but I'm not picking him as a boom. I'm not going to pick James Conner. I'm not going to pick Matt Breida. And Zach Moss was going to be the guy I went with, but I just don't. If Richardson doesn't play, like, he's not going to bust. So I don't want to pick that now. I'm going with a guy in the same game that I already had picked earlier. James Cook bust this week. Going against Washington. I think that last week was a bit different because they just got to run the ball all over Las Vegas. And I kind of mentioned this when I talked about Diggs. But Washington's front seven is dominant, and they've been very good throughout their first 2 games. So I think that unless James Cook gets a lot of receiving work, which he definitely could, I'm taking the route that he doesn't, and he ends up with 9.5. 14.5 is high, but he had a really good week last week, so I'm not saying he can't get that again. It's not my favorite bust pick. I'll say that.
I like it.
I'm not quite confident in it, but it's my 4th and final bust pick. So
I can't believe nobody picked Kyron. 18, dude.
He
18, but
scares
I
me,
think
dude.
that's a trap projection. Like, I think it almost makes you want to say he's not going to do that good, and he's just going to get, like, 15.5.
I feel like Kyron and Brian Robinson Jr. are, like, flip-flopped, but both, like, just as dangerous.
Yeah.
Because they're both,
Yeah.
like, there's, like, it's just so scary picking both of them.
It
One of them
is.
has to come down to earth
That's
eventually.
the thing, though. Brian Robinson's projected 12 points.
Exactly, but
Kyron's
he's
projected
averaging,
18.
like, 28.
I know. but
Kyron actually wins the award for craziest projection of all time. Not
It's crazy.
of all
It-
season.
It should be like 16 or 15.
Right.
Yeah.
All the running back, like Pacheco has a 14.5 projection. I should have picked him as a bust. I didn't even think about that. I so feel
I
more
thought
confident
about
in
it,
that.
but I think he's going to boom.
Even like Javonte and Madison both projected 14 and 14.5. Like,
It's so hard to pick a guy like a running back like that to bust, though.
yeah.
Because, like, they're going to probably end up with 10 just off of just, like, it's a long game.
Yeah, exactly. So
Like, they're going to catch a couple passes.
Mm-hmm.
It's so tough. That's like Brian Robinson needs to take a dump for me. Like, that, like seriously, he's projected
Yeah.
12.9.
Yeah.
yeah, you need to get like 7. Yeah,
Yeah.
he needs to get like no catches and have just like
He
50
needs to
yards.
just, it needs to be what the Bills did to Jacobs.
Yeah,
overall.
which could happen definitely. Anything else that we need to get off of our chest before heading into week 3? No. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. Good luck in your week 3 fantasy leagues, and we will see you next week. Peace.